Welcome to Rewiring Health. My name is Kelly Kessler, and I'm so incredibly grateful you're joining me here today. It's so easy to feel like you are alone in this world, to feel like everything is dependent on you to get it done and to show up, and to feel separate in so many instances. But what if you were being guided every step of the way? What if you had internal guidance to realize that you are the creator of your own life? And that is why I'm so honored to have my guest on today. Chris Lippincott is an international psychic medium, best-selling author, and spiritual teacher whose evidential readings and unique information from spirit helps transform people's lives. Through both his evidential and trance mediumship, Chris provides comfort, healing, and knowledge that our loved ones in spirit are alive and well and still care about us. It's Chris's mission to help raise the spiritual awareness and vibration of humanity through his mediumship, authorship, and teaching. I truly enjoyed my conversation with Chris, and I'm so grateful for everything he shared. It feels so empowering to recognize that we are being guided by not only the ones we love, but also by our spirit guides. And there's so much he dives into with that. Welcome, Chris Lippincott. I am so excited to have you here and just to talk about something that is so amazing to talk about because what our audience needs to hear. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to dive into is something that I've explored myself, but it's something that I just want to learn more about. And I know for people listening, it's something that there's just this innate curiosity about what the spirit world is. So can you talk about your experience and how you started your journey along getting into the spirit world and sharing that here?
Sure. It's a great question. I mean, I sort of come from a very unusual background when it comes to the spirit world. Because, I came from a very agnostic family, very analytical family. My parents were like, whatever. Um, and yet when I was a child, I was very in touch with energy and anything that moved, and I was always connecting with voices around me that I just thought was my imagination. I was like, oh, this is great, I'm fantastic, as any 5 or 6 year old is wont to do. Um, but it wasn't until I started, I'm 5 or 6 years old, I'm in my bedroom and trying to go to sleep. I'm lying down in my bed on my stomach and I can feel a hand on my back. And I don't have any siblings, and my parents are at the other end of the house. So I'm like going, oh my God, what is this? And I'm also hearing voices in my room, and it's not some burglar because we're in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody else there. And so I'm constantly feeling spirit touching me. I'm hearing their voices. I'm hearing them connect. And, of course, at nighttime, I'm, you know, the Hollywood ghost story, monsters taking me away, going underneath the bed, all that kind of stuff. And for years, I was just scared of the dark. I was just, I wound up becoming a grown man, scared of the dark, fear of my own shadow. Um, but it wasn't until, I was, probably in my 30s, 40s, or just, decades later, that I was really stressed out at work. And I was an analyst, I was in finance, again, totally the opposite of what you'd expect, definitely not a guy from the Hindu Kush here. Um, and I'm, getting stressed out, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I got to figure out a way to, de-stress because I'm taken out of my family. And stumble upon the concept of meditation, but I'm like, meditation? Why would I want to do meditation? I got to wear a turban, or I got to like go up to the Himalayas or something. But eventually I stumble on a really calm audio track, and I'm like, oh, all right, I can get used to it. I kind of like it, and really short, and 15 minutes max. And so I start doing that every morning before I go to work. And the next thing I know, I'm like very calm. This is very cool. So I'm winding up doing it every single day. But I didn't really know quite what I was doing to myself in when I'm meditating. Um, it just kept on feeling better and better and better and better. And so I wound up doing this every single day for about 12 months straight, thinking, okay, I feel really relaxed. This is wonderful. It wasn't until one weekend I'm in my man cave because every guy's got to have his man cave. And it's weekend. I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to have like a 30-minute meditation. This is phenomenal. So I'm deep into the meditation. I'm traveling in my mind. I'm like, oh, this is great. Wow. And then all of a sudden, I'm like aware of like these four people in silhouette that appear in my mind's eye. And I'm like, I recognize you, but I don't know who you are. Why do I think I know you? Um, and they're two on my left, two on my right, and the guy all the way, I'm assuming it's a guy, all the way off to my right-hand side, tallest, biggest, most powerful, just shoots this beam of energy right through my chest, out through my back, and I could feel it. I'm like, I'm not asleep. What's going on? What's happening? Because I was thinking I was just drifting into sleep. I'm just feeling the beam of energy getting shot right through me. And as that happens, I'm kind of, I don't know, teleported or taken or just move on to a whole nother realm. Um, the universe or stars or someplace different. And next thing I know, I'm in a place where I'm somehow connecting in this tapestry of love that just has no end. It just goes forever and ever and ever and ever. And somehow I'm connected to it, kind of like a thread in a tapestry, and I'm uh, part of it, and it's part of me. There's no beginning, there's no ending. It's just everywhere. And as I'm getting more and more connected into that, all of a sudden I'm aware of something telling me I'm perfect. And I'm like, well, wait a second. You don't know what I've done. I ain't perfect. But I kept on saying you're perfect. And the overwhelming, powerful, unconditional love that was just overpowering me. But I was just like dumbfounded by this power of unconditional love of me for just being. Just the only um, way I could describe it was the human word love that we express to one another would be like the top 1% of an iceberg that floats above the water that you can see. This was the other 99% that you don't see. This is like a gazillion times, a billion times, infinity times more than what we ever could conceive of. And it just kept on going and going and going. And I was there for I don't know how long. And then all of a sudden I'm brought back in. I'm just, you know, spinning. I kind of come to and um, gather myself for a while and I run to my desk, start writing it all down. And after that happened, all of a sudden, all the energy that I've been feeling as a kid, all that tingling, all that sensation, the awareness of energy and other people standing around me, that came back. The voices came back. The touching came back. It's like a portal reopened instantly. And then I started becoming aware and knowing, my family, spirit family started coming back, and then other people started coming in, and then I started to had to figure out what in the world was happening because I'm like, yeah, I was starting to think, medium, nah, that's just for people, for special people, gurus or people who have like, magic powers. That's not me. But then the more I researched it, I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm connecting with spirit for some reason, and so then I had to learn about it and figure out about it and harness it. And so then it took me years to kind of study it and learn it and connect with it. And ever since then, it's just been this beautiful journey of connection.
Are you the person who says yes, even though you want to say no? Are you the person who puts your own needs and wants last behind the demands of your work and everyone else in your life? If you answered yes to any of these, you may be self abandoning, and it does not come without a cost. If you want to know if you're self abandoning for achievement, take my free quiz in the show notes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is absolutely incredible. And it's like when you had that experience of that overwhelming love, how did you, when you came back to the physical realm and in your mind, how did your life change after that? How did you take that energy forward, or what changed from that moment on?
Everything. Because um, at that point in time, I was, in finance, I was an analyst, I was in finance, I was the Mr. Number Cruncher analyst, materialist. And all of a sudden it's like um, the light was turned on and the door was opened. And all of a sudden I knew something completely different. So it's like, once you're taught or once you become aware of something, you can no longer unlearn it. You can no longer unknow it. Once you've seen something, you can no longer unsee it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that is what happened. It's like all of a sudden, I don't want to say I was transformed, but I was the evolution, my evolution just like took a step jump,
Mhm. Yeah.
it totally changed me. And, at that point, I just started realizing, I guess that's probably a better word. It's like a realization of
Mhm.
our reality was so much radically different than I had ever experienced before. Because, before that experience, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going along my daily experience and, I got blinders on. I'm like, okay, the material world, this is all we got, none of this, because again, I was agnostic. I was brought up with a family that just kind of didn't believe in much of anything. So I'm kind of like, all right, whatever, just no religion really what to speak of. I'm like, well, I don't really believe in the man in the sky, but that's a nice thought and whatever. Um, but then this happens, and it's like it's a whole different reality that's out there because we just see with our eyes. All of a sudden, I was seeing with a different vision completely, knowing there was more out there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. It's like the evidence that your mind wants and then now you have that expansive experience. It's like it's promising to hear that like when you have that expansion and that enlightenment, you don't go back to how you were. It's just like you're continually
Yeah,
evolving.
you totally. Yeah, you're totally changed. I guess it's very similar to what I've heard people who have had NDEs have said is before they had the experience they were only seeing the physical. After they had their experience, then all of a sudden they were fully aware of what else is out there beyond their physical five senses or whatever,
Yeah.
however many we have.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify for people listening because I read your book ND is near death experience, so just so someone has an understanding of that, but like that is it's I mean that's absolutely incredible and just to have that awareness. And I want to go back to like your childhood because you had experiences in your childhood, but for someone who maybe didn't have experiences in their childhood is it capable are they capable of also having a spiritual awakening like you did?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Everybody is able to have a spiritual awakening. Everybody's able to connect with spirit. It just becomes a state of, are you allowing yourself to do that? Are you putting yourself, I don't want to say on the path, but that's kind of what it is, where you're um, allowing yourself to progress along a certain roadmap, if you will, to take yourself along a progression where you can begin to open yourself up, learn what's there, connect in your heart, connect in your mind, begin to understand what it is that we truly are. And there's so many resources out there that you can, find, whether you read or you learn or, whatever it is. I mean, some of the things that I love to do is I love reading some of the great automatic writings that Spirit has come through over the last several hundred years through mediums who are in trance, and the spirit just will just have, the trance medium, they're controlling their hand, and they'll write the entire story through a trance medium. And there are all these books out there of spirit who've come back, connected with the trance medium, written a book automatic writing, and the revelations and the details and the consistency of all these people who come through. It's amazing. One of the books I would actually refer to is the Paget Messages, Padgett. The Paget Messages, it's a series of writings that a lawyer by the name of J.D. Paget in the 19 teens down in Washington, D.C., who again was very analytical, material, and what
Mhm.
have you. And his wife dies. He's in mourning. He goes to a medium. His wife comes through in the medium. And then somehow he starts um, connecting with his wife through trance. He didn't expect it.
Mhm.
And all of her experiences that she's telling him what it's like.
Mhm.
And then all of his business associates in his law firm who died that he used to work with, they start coming through, and
Wow.
all these other people that he used to work with, it's absolutely amazing. It's like, get the first volume, you'll be hooked.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. It's just I mean it's so cool too because it's like you just realize there's more to life than like this, and like
Absolutely.
I think that's such a huge thing because we can so easily get caught up in like the minute details of like that project didn't get done. I got to answer that phone call, like the emails. And it's like to realize that like there's more to life than just being like a workhorse and just going. Like it's just so inspiring. And I want to dive into that too, because I want to talk about ego versus like soul versus spirit. And if you could just kind of differentiate, maybe soul and what spirit is first, and then we can
Hmm.
dive into ego a little bit.
Okay, sure. Well, we all have, let's kind of split up between spirit and soul. Soul, well, actually, let's go the other way. Spirit is what we carry on the inside. Spirit is our consciousness. It's our energy, if you will. It's our spark of life. What do you think of when you say the word spirit? Oh, they've got such spirit. That's
Mhm.
literally what you are. You're literally that spirit, that spark of life, because that's who you are. And that personality, that energy never changes because, for example, every single time I do a mediumship reading with somebody, they come through the exact same way they always have been. Their personality, their charisma, their likes and dislikes, and their everything about them and their energy, it's the exact same thing. Because when we transition, the only thing we're leaving behind is this trench coat of a body that we don't really need. Everything else is exactly the same. Oh, we also leave behind our ego. But our spirit and our energy and our consciousness, we literally just keep on going.
Mhm.
So the concept of life never ends, life continues is so important because we're literally the experience that we're having now, that doesn't change. It's
Mhm.
just magnified 20 gazillion times.
Mhm.
Um, So a spirit is what we have on the inside. It's our inside spirit, and that's what you people need to connect with first. So,
Mhm.
for example, you want to connect with spirit. There's one of the world's greatest mediums who's no longer alive in the physical. Um, Gordon Higginson said, before you can connect with the spirit uh, in the non-physical, you first must connect with the spirit in the physical.
Mhm.
So that's what we have here. And that's the part that we take with us when we transition. Now, the soul is what I'll refer to as the mothership, right? This is kind of like the little baby ship that kind of travels back and forth. The soul is sort of the capsule that encapsulates everything that stays behind. It's kind of, you can call it the higher self, if you will. And that's where we retain all of our memories throughout all of existence. Perhaps you want to refer to it as the Akashic records or our soul life, throughout all of our quote unquote lifetimes. That's our soul. It's the capsule. Every single personality that we've ever taken on, every single spiritual manifestation that we've ever taken. That's the soul, and that's sort of the large capsule that maintains everything. So then you compare that to the ego. The ego is something that you can go into psychology if you want. The ego is something that we actually develop at a very young age. When we're first born, we don't have an ego. We don't have a personality. We just exist.
Mhm.
We're suddenly arrived. Um, and within the first year, 2 years, maybe three, we start to develop this shield around us to sort of psychologically and mentally protect ourselves, our tender and fragile being from the external world. Like we begin to understand, okay, if I want to eat, I need to do this, that, or the other thing. Or why are they yelling at me? I'm scared. I need protection. So then we start to put up this barrier of us versus them.
Mhm.
That's the key separation where when we come into the physical and we start interacting that way to protect ourselves, we put up that barrier, we create the separation, but it's a false separation. There really is never any separation because the phrase we're all one is so true. But when we look at each other, ever since the time that, we were babies, we've been thinking that we're separate because that's the way we protect ourselves. It's like how often do you want to get close even to your partner? You're still protecting yourself in some way, right?
Yeah.
So that's the ego. But that's where all of our flaws come in. And it's our ego that creates the illusion of our existence on the planet. So everything that we experience in our daily lives is actually a false creation of the ego mind, and it's an illusion that's not actually happening. That's something to get
Yeah.
your mind
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the whole concept of what Shakespeare said that's so true. All the world's a stage, we are merely actors upon it. And
Mhm.
that's what happens why when we're spirit, we say, okay, well, we want to take this experience, and we're going to do this role and these people and want to interact with these people. We're just actors. And so everything that we're doing every single day is nothing but an intentional interaction to learn things. And it's the ego mind that's playing the part of you're separate from me, I'm separate from you. Whereas the Beatles got it right. I am me as you are he, and we are all together. I can't say. Um, but that's the idea.
Yeah. So when we have the ego, because that's the driving force for so many people, especially today, where people are very materialistic, external rewards, going, going, going. How do you navigate that balance between like having the ego where you're somewhat protected in the physical world, but yet also surrendering to your spirit self? How does
Mm.
that get navigated?
The one thing you have to do is to focus on love. That would be the biggest and most important lesson all humans on the planet can learn.
Mhm.
Um, Spirits come through so many gazillion times in so many ways and said in so many different times that love is truly the driving force behind everything.
Mhm.
And again, even the Beatles said, "Love's everything," or I forget when they had some of those songs. But the whole concept is that if we understand what love truly means, it doesn't have to mean romantic love. It doesn't have to mean this amorphous love. It's nothing but compassion.
Mhm.
it's nothing but loving kindness. And when you begin to have that compassion and loving kindness towards others, even in the smallest amount, that changes everything because you only have two vibrations: love in its varying degrees, or fear in its varying degrees. So it's like positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
Anything love related, somewhat positive to very positive. Fear is negative and to very negative.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and there's no middle zone.
Yeah.
So if you focus on love, you are focusing on the highest vibration possible. So ego is where we all trip up. Ego is where we all kind of miss the boat and all the problems begin because then we're thinking me, 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 and I am separate from them, 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 them. They're the problem. I mean, I'm guilty as just as everybody else. I mean, I can remember just a little while ago, my wife and I were going out to a nice restaurant with some friends. We're all having a good time. And then, of course, what winds up happening? All these patrons next to us start getting loud and obnoxious, and the ego mind starts going. And I'm just going, I hate those people. Will you shut up? I mean, is that very loving? No. But what part of it was it? That's the left brain. That's the ego mind. Had I
Mm-hmm.
been, thinking the way I should be thinking, I would have been more kind, more compassionate, more loving, more thoughtful. But I wasn't. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we have to practice. And that's why it's such a practice because we're so used to it.
Yeah, thank you for it's such a tangible thing when you just talk about love because that's something I feel like we can okay, like if we just set that intention every day, we can start moving in that direction to experience more love and connect with people in a more loving way. And so I
Mhm.
really appreciate that explanation because it just feels like, okay, that's something I can do.
And one thing very important related to that, you can't give others love if you don't have love yourself. So the most important thing you can do even before that is to learn to love yourself. You've got
Mhm.
to learn to fill your heart with love, open your heart chakra. And
Mhm.
the other thing is, a lot of people say, well, I want to get connection with spirit. I want to see signs from spirit. I want to learn from spirit. Well,
Mhm.
spirits come down and told us many, many times that they want to come down and connect with us. There's such high vibration. They literally have to lower their vibration to come down to our vibration. But they've specifically said on a number of times that they can go only so far. I mean, here we are in the low vibration material plane, and we're material and low vibration entities. So what we have to do is we have to try to raise our vibration so that they can reach us at some point. There's a threshold below which they can't go. So we got
Mhm.
to raise our vibration. So if our hearts are closed and we're negative minded and we're, oh, everything sucks and oh gosh, I got all these problems and all these bills and all these politics and all these people and
Mhm.
what happens? Our vibration drops.
Yeah.
Can spirit connect with us? No.
Mhm.
Is our heart open? No.
Mhm.
That's how spirit connects with us. Spirit
Yeah.
connects through our heart chakra. So we got to open up our heart chakra, got to raise our vibration, and we'll connect with spirit. And it's like literally saying, okay, spirit, I'm raising my hand to you. Then they
Mhm.
can connect. They can't connect if our hand's not up.
I love that. And it's like, it's almost like it would be a self-fulfilling prophecy too. If you are someone who's like, oh, my life sucks, everything's terrible. And they're like, somebody just please help me, give me some guidance. But then you're not always getting it because you're closed off to it. Then you're like, see, I told you there's no guidance there. Like, I'm sure this becomes like a vicious cycle where
It
people like
does.
are closed off. And then it's almost like a confirmation when they're not receiving messages because of that.
Right. It's
Yeah.
all about, and the other thing is, it's all about intention. When you set
Mhm.
the intention, you then create.
Yeah.
Thoughts create. You and people say I can't manifest anything. Well, yes, you can. It's all about your thought. Buddha had it perfectly when he said, "All that we are is what we have thought." Past
Mhm.
tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
We create with our thoughts. And we
Mhm.
create in the now, not in the future, not in the past. And so many people, and I'll look in my own family for this. So
Mhm.
many people are focused on the past. They ruminate in the past, like, oh, this should have happened. Oh, why didn't I do that? Or they're like, how am I going to do this? Or how's that going to happen? None of it matters because there is no time. The only reason we feel there's time is because the sun tends to affect our daily lives. Our earth is going around the sun, 364 and 9/10 of a day or something crazy like that. So it's not exactly 24 hours.
Mhm.
And that's why we're in a leap year right now. So it's all distance, the whole thing. There is
Mhm.
no time. It's all in the now, and you create in the now. So
Mhm.
if people focus on the now and they set the intention in the now and they put their thoughts in that intention, they create. So you create with your thoughts
Yeah, it's
everywhere.
so empowering too, because that's literally the power that you have is like you can, if you don't like your life right now, you have the power to change that and
Yeah,
take accountability and move yourself in a different direction. And
100%.
I'm just thinking for someone who is okay, listening to this is like, okay, I'm ready to open my heart. I'm ready to receive guidance and move myself in an elevated direction. But maybe they're surrounded by people who are those negative, closed off people. What
Hmm.
what do you say for that person who's like, maybe being held back by people who are down in that fear center and can't, are almost holding that person back from elevating into more of like a love space?
Yeah, that happens a lot. Even for people who are in the spiritual environment, that
Mhm.
their families just like that. And they're like, how do I get out of this?
Mhm.
The concept is you've got to try to help them work with it. But the most important thing is, again, you've got to sort of focus on yourself, acknowledging the fact that these other people in your life are not there yet. You can try to help them. You can try to, get them out. The other thing that's very helpful is at the very least, you know, get them outside, get them grounded, get them walking, get them in nature. Because once you start grounding and removing that negative energy,
Mhm.
um, everything's possible. And the way that you do that is by grounding. Grounding is literally based on electrons. I mean, here's where the physics gets fun.
Mhm.
Um, the Earth has a magnetic pole where it's one vibration, I think it's negative electrons or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and we're the opposite. Uh, we're positive charge. I forget. Anyway,
Mhm.
whatever it is, the earth literally sucks the negative energy out of us. So if we go out to the earth, we're walking on grass, we're hanging out by a tree, we're in the sun, it's literally absorbing all the negatively charged particles out of us. We're left with positively charged particles as a result. So that's literally how grounding works. And that's
Mhm.
why grounding is so important. So then when you go, I mean, why is it that we all feel so great when we come back from a nature walk or we're just hanging out in nature? Is it just because, oh, it looks so pretty? No, it's physical.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that explanation because it's like you hear these things, but then to hear that explanation, you're like, oh, there's a real science to this. Like there's actual proof of this that nature is actually helping you. Because it's like you can have an experience and you're like, oh, is that just me? But no, this is what it's here for. That's the purpose of it. And just to have healing right outside your door is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and even if let's say, it's wintertime or it's raining or you can't go outside, hang out with plants. They
Hmm.
do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. It's so helpful because like these are things that we can do on a daily basis to bring ourselves into a better place, at least to be more receptive to something else. So I really appreciate that because it's tactile and it's something that you can do regularly and consistently. So one thing I want to ask you, because for people who have, for people who are always going, it's like life seems to just pass you by because you're living this like automatic world of day in and day out, it's like Groundhog Day. You wake up, you go to work, you take care of the kids, you take care of the house, you're paying the bills, and it's like you're doing this over and over and over again. And before you know it, this could be decades or your entire
Mm.
life. For people who have passed, what are some of the biggest regrets you hear from the other side that they wish they had done things differently in this world?
The biggest, most consistent regret, or at least advice that they give that their loved ones still hear, is to focus on the joy. The biggest thing they say is allow joy to fill your life. And they
Mhm,
regret not allowing joy to fill their life. Live a life full of joy, because that's why we're here.
mhm,
Yes, we're here to learn experiences, but we are also here to learn what it feels like to experience that joy and that bliss. While certainly there's bliss in the spirit realm, we're here to physically experience the joy that we have in this physical life that you can't experience in the non-physical, because we're tangibly experiencing it. And that's something that spirit kind of wants. That's why we keep coming back. It's not only to learn, but also to experience the tangible joy of living. So if people are constantly caught up in the ruminations of their everyday life, focus on the joy. And people think, oh, well, I'll be happy and joyful and have all the happiness after I'm successful. No, you won't. It's the other way around.
mhm,
You must first be filled with joy and happiness to be then successful. This
mhm,
has been proven by psychology for the last 50 years now. I think positive psychology started in the 70s. So we've been doing this for 50 years. There have been countless studies, I mean, hundreds of studies funded by governments around the globe with billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that focused on this. And they know it for a fact. So what do? You get a gratitude journal
mhm,
every morning. Just write down three simple things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my morning coffee. I can't live without my morning coffee.
mhm,
I'm grateful that I've got a roof over my head. I'm grateful for my clothes. You can go
mhm,
on and on and on and on. If you're not a morning person, do it before you go to bed or while you're in bed. As long as you write down those three things that you're grateful for every day, make them different, you start to get into this pattern of, hey, you know what? Things aren't all that bad.
mhm. Yeah, I love that. And just like talking about the joy, it's like it's almost like here's your permission to experience joy, because I think sometimes
Hmm.
people get stuck in like, no, I can't experience joy. I got to do all these things. Like, how can this, but it's just like to realize like this is part of your journey here is to actually experience joy. It's like having that permission is just absolutely huge. And gratitude is such I mean, that's when I started implementing that in my own life and started seeing things, you see more of what you have to be grateful for. But like, if you're closed off to it and you're not intentional about it, your whole life could be wonderful from the outside, but you wouldn't see any of it. And I've had that experience too. So I love that, just that daily intention of like, find something small, whatever it is, there's always something to be grateful for. And it's like, even just going
Yeah,
the science of that, it's your reticular activating system. It filters the world in a different way. So if you think the world is something to be grateful for, you see more of what there is to be grateful for. And it's literally how your
100%.
brain works.
Yes. It feeds
Yeah.
on itself.
Yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful. And now you can see how like you can literally create the world that you want, because if you see life in a different lens, you're going to attract different people, attract different circumstances, see different things than you would if you're stuck in that fear mindset. And
Exactly.
so,
That's where the law of attraction comes in, because you're not only putting out the intention, it's what you're seeing. And it's not seeing is believing, believing is seeing.
yeah, I love that. And that's it's just beautiful. And I think these conversations, having this conversation specifically is so important, because in society it's very easy to fall into that fear mindset, because it's again that like separation, you're on your own, you're on an island, you got to fight against people, there's scarcity of resources, and you think that this whole world is against you. But it's like when you have these other perspectives, you can start to shift and realize that like life is actually working for you. And so that's one of the most beautiful things you can do, is just start to realize that. And so I appreciate this conversation so much because I think so many people need to hear this and realize that you don't have to live in the way that you're living, and there is another way.
Yeah,
So,
and absolutely. And one of the biggest things also, you touched on it, is people live in a scarcity mindset.
mhm,
There's no such thing as scarcity. The unlimited availability of abundance in the universe is unlimited. Why? Because we create the abundance.
mhm,
We create everything that we live in. We create existence. We are creators in our own right, and therefore we create that abundance. It's unlimited. Everybody's like, no, I got to make it myself and I got to steal it from somebody else. And there's only, this amount of money. Well, let's look at it in reality. How about all these trillionaires and billionaires and Elon Musks and Bezos and all these people? They created out of thin air.
mhm,
All you got to do is think.
mhm.
Everyone's like, oh, that's impossible. That's rare. Like, no, it's not. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
Where did they come from? Bezos began just like saying, okay, well, I want to make a better bookstore, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's what Amazon was just books not that long ago either. So I
Right.
mean, you can see the expansion of it, and it's amazing and such a great example. It's like that you have that power. But for someone who's listening, just to play devil's advocate, if someone who's listening and saying like, how do I start? Maybe they are that like scarcity mindset, fear mindset. Like, how would you say to somebody who's like really is starting at the base level, what's the smallest thing they can do today to start to open themselves up and realize that they are the creator of their own world?
Well, go right back to what we were talking about earlier, the gratitude journal.
Mhm,
It's all in the mindset because you got to take baby steps.
mhm,
Everything is going to be microscopic. And the other thing is, it's the law of compounding, where you may be going a long time thinking this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. But what you're not seeing are the incremental changes that are growing. And over time, those incremental changes keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because each one's compounding. By the time you get to the very end, if things just keep on doubling, it literally goes logarithmic and takes off like a rocket at the end. Do a one times, here's where my math comes in. One times one 0.01 raised to the, I forget, like 202, it's like whatever it is. It's like you're literally doubling it every day. In 365 days, you get like $1 million just starting with $1.
yeah. Yep.
And that's the law of compounding. So all you got to do is start thinking of little things, your
Mhm,
gratitude journal and your thought process. And you start to do this every single day. The law of compounding, by the end of the year, you're just, if you keep on doing it consistently, it just blows up.
mhm. And I love that your analytical mind, your spiritual mind just came together in that, like you
That's the
have the
way it,
numbers and the
that's the way,
spirit.
that's that. And that's the way it works. Here's an example. One,
Yeah.
early in my development, I remember um, yelling to spirit going, why me? I'm just a regular guy. I'm nothing special. And before I could even finish the question, the answer was already coming back because you're a regular guy. I'm like, oh, all right. That makes total sense.
I love that. And like when you say that you receive these answers, like how do you differentiate that like that's the spirit talking to you versus like your mind creating this answer?
That's a great question. There's an easy way to figure that out.
Mhm,
Um, you're able to determine your own mind versus spirit's mind um, based on A, how subtle it is. If it's so subtle that you can barely detect it, barely hear it, for example, you're walking along and all of a sudden you get this um, silent thought in your head out of nowhere in the back of your mind, and it's so silent that you basically ignore it.
mhm,
That's how subtle it is.
mhm,
And two, you'll know spirit's talking to you more often than not when it's coming out of the blue.
Mhm.
When you're just walking along and all of a sudden, pow, something out of the blue, and you're like, whoa, where'd that thought come from? A complete non sequitur, and you're like, what?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
spirit talking to you. So sometimes when you're asking a question to spirit, um, if you're asking the question and the answer is already coming back to you before you've even finished the question, that's a dead ringer right there. If it's incredibly subtle, so subtle that you can barely hear it or understand it, and your um, loud, obnoxious monkey mind wants to talk over it, that's a
Mhm.
dead giveaway. And if it's coming out of the blue about something that you're not even thinking about, your whole mind process is over here talking about like this whole chain of thought process, and then something on the opposite side comes out of the blue and completely unrelated, and you're like, where the hell did that come from?
Mhm.
That spirit.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because I think that's so it's one of those things that like becomes a hang up. Like, is this just me making this up or is this spirit talking? So
Yeah, oh yeah.
I appreciate that. And for like with those messages, like does spirit always come in like a loving, compassionate way, or do they ever come in like a warning way?
Thank you. That's the fourth way that you'll know.
Hmm.
Spirit always comes to you in a loving, compassionate, calm way, because spirit is never allowed to interfere with our free will. And that's why everything's coming through so subtly, because they can only drip advice
Hmm.
that it's up to us whether we take it or not. If they're coming in loud and firm, it's going to influence our decision, right? Like if somebody yells at you, like your parents go, you should be doing blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
That's going to influence you. If someone's
Yeah.
kind of whispering you going in your ear, kind of going, think about the red balloon. I think I want to think about the red balloon for some reason. I'm not quite sure
Hmm.
why, but
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So they're always going to be dripping. Think of it like an advisor kind of hanging off in the far back corner of your room, just kind of
Hmm.
whispering things in the back of your ear. Um, where most of the time it's kind of like a fly. You're just kind of like, go away. That's kind of the way it is. And it's always this calm, compassionate, loving, helpful advice. If anybody ever gets something that's mean and nasty and forceful, that's your ego mind talking,
Hmm. Yeah.
because that's what our ego is.
Right. Yeah, such a great differentiator. I appreciate that. And do you feel things in your body? Like, does spirit talk through your body ever? Like, do you ever get sensations? Like, how can you recognize that too? Like, if that is actually spirit talking to you?
Yeah. If you're connected well enough, you will definitely feel spirit come around you. They always give you signs, and different people will have different feelings depending on how you connect with spirit. For me, it's I'm always feeling this band of energy around my upper arms, sometimes my my shoulders, and my chest. Sometimes I'll feel a temperature shift. Other times I'll feel like if I'm sitting, I'll feel like my feet get glued to the floor, like with cement blocks, and I can't move them. Other times I'll just feel like this cobweb on my face, like this some energy feeling on my face, or I'll just feel like this incredible sense of calm, loving, compassion, circular energy just kind of going around my chest.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it depends on the spirit. It depends on how you personally connect with spirit. So each person's kind of different, but those are some of the ways you might encounter it.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. And I just love how it's all like individualized too. So just understanding yourself in that
Yeah,
experience.
100%.
Yeah. Is I had another question for you. As far as talking about like guidance, because this is something that a lot of people, especially like high achievers, get stuck in like, I need to force it. I need to go do what, just keep grinding. When how can people receive guidance, like intuition, and be open to the guidance? And maybe just if you could talk about what your guides are and what they're there for, and how people can really tap into the guidance that is theirs to
Sure, sure.
have.
Let's start off with a definition of spirit guides. Spirit guides are spiritual entities who have had many, many, many lifetimes. They've basically completed all of their lifetimes, all of their journeys into the physical, and they no longer need to or feel they have the requirement to keep coming back. So
Mhm.
they feel they have evolved to the point where that constant incarnation serves their purpose. So now they're at a different stage of evolution where they feel they want to begin to help people who are in the physical. So they turn their whole purpose into guiding others in the physical from their own experiences. And they literally go to what I would refer to as spirit guide training camp.
Mhm.
Um, so they're trained by higher level spirit guides, and there's endless levels of spirit guides. Um, and the reason spirit guides are so powerful is because they've had, so many hundreds or thousands of lives. They are able to understand what we're going through because they've gone through the exact same BS that we have, if not more, because we're only dealing with the current life that we can remember now.
Mhm.
They're going off of thousands of lifetimes that they can still remember. And what they do is they are trying to guide us. They're trying not to influence us, but they are giving us little nudges here and there. And they're, like I said, they're in the back, kind of whispering behind our ear. Um, and when people are trying to connect with their guides, first thing to know is the spirit guides will only reveal themselves when they feel you're ready to accept them. And it may be a while. So let's
Mhm.
say, for example, you've been connecting with your spirit guide for a while. You've been receiving guidance and advice, but you just don't know who they are. And you're like, why don't you tell me who you are?
Mhm.
Maybe you're not ready.
Mhm.
But I can I can remember the first time I tried to connect with my spirit guides. It was early in my journey, and I'm like, oh, guides, if you're out there, I gotta have a name. Give me your name. So they said, okay. And they gave me two names. I was like, and they said, our names are Frank and Judy. I'm like, what? Frank and Judy. That's
Mhm.
no, 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 no. They said you wanted names. We gave you names, but you're not ready.
Mhm.
I was so excited that I got anything about it. I was
Right.
like, okay, fine, that's
Yeah.
cool. Eventually these names changed, but just
Mhm.
getting that, it's like, and there's so many stories like that where, for example, the famous um guy named Silver Birch that came through, in the late 1800s. Um, when they were first asking his name, they said, "Who are you? What is your name?" And they
Mhm.
said, and the guide said, "Look out the window. What do you see?" And they said, "We see a tree." And he said, "What kind of tree do you see?" And they go, "We see a silver birch. You have my name."
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
That's the way they work. But
Yeah.
as far as advice, um, they will give you the advice that you need when you need it. You can't
Mhm.
force it. And the other thing is you have to be open to it. It goes right back to intention. You have to invite it. You have to work with them. You have to sit. And this is the other thing. It's going to be really tough to connect with spirit if your monkey mind's going a mile a minute, like everybody's normally is,
Mhm.
which is why meditation is so critical, which is why it took me 12 months of sitting in meditation, 12 months every single day. I mean, yeah, 12 months every single day sitting in meditation before I had that experience. And that was why I was saying in the very beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. I
Mhm.
didn't know that every single day I was getting that much closer and opening up my mind to finally connect with spirit. That was not my path. I was like, oh, this feels great. At the end of that 12 months, boom. And that there's some about 12 months that does it, because even in the UK, you're not allowed into a mediumship circle until you've been sitting in meditation for 12 months. So there's something about that.
Yeah. Is it when you're doing it daily, was it like 10 minutes a day, half hour a day? Like how long?
Yeah, it's
Just,
only like 15 minutes.
yeah.
It's not the duration,
Hmm.
it's the consistency. And that's what I always tell my meditation students. It's
Yeah.
the consistency that does it,
Mhm.
not the
Interesting.
length.
Yeah. Going off of like, so the guides, like, do our like family, when we have family or friends that have passed, do they also guide us in our journey, or is that the prime?
They will help.
Yeah.
Consider them to be helpers, not
Hmm.
primary guides. We
Yeah.
the way the guides work is that we have an inner band of guides that, like 9 or 10 primary guides led by one main guide. Consider him to be the what is it, the orchestra leader, the director, the whatever you want to call him. He's the main guide. And you got a band of like 9, maybe 10 other guides that each have their own focus and purpose, and they're the ones that are always around you, working on you 24/7.
Mhm.
And then outside of that, you've got sort of your outer band of guides that are always working with you, and they're sort of like specialist guides that can help you. And then beyond that, you have what I refer to as contractor guides. If you need a specialist in some bizarre area and you need guidance in that area, call up your contractor guide and they'll show up and they'll help you.
Funny.
It's so funny because, like, these are people who were specialists in that particular area in their Earth lifetime, and they're like, "Hey, I can help you on this. You want a mortgage? I know what to do."
Yeah. That's amazing. It's like not much different from here, getting
No,
a contractor.
only
Yeah.
only difference is they're not requiring compensation.
That's true. And they mean well in all
And
in
they
case.
mean well,
Yes.
exactly. They're out for
Yeah.
your best interest.
I love that. And just one more question, because I think this is something that a lot of people worry about is like, where's the direction of the world? Like people think like everything is going downhill. From your experience with communicating with spirit, and what is the message that maybe they have for us as a world, as a cumulative?
Yeah, I sit in a trance circle twice a week, and what my guides always say as they come through in trance is, given the state of humanity right now, it's more important than ever to learn. We were talking about love. It's more important than ever to learn to love one another, to express compassion and understanding and kindness to one another. The vibration of humanity is lower than it's been in a long, long time. Um, Years ago, when just as the pandemic had started, a question, no, not a question, but a statement was made by one of the guys that came through somebody else, saying that we're offering you the opportunity in this pandemic to learn from this challenge, to bring you all together,
Mhm.
to fight a common enemy,
Mhm.
to unite you, to see that you are all united and you are truly in a unity as one. What did it do? We failed the test
Mhm.
because we've never been so apart in
Mhm.
existence. We've never been so singular,
Yeah.
or I should say, not the same. We've never been so separate. So Spirit was trying to get us to be singular. We've never been so separate. So now that separation has gotten so bad, it's now the only way to focus it is by focusing on love and getting the vibration back to like some norm,
Mhm.
because it's gotten out of control. So Spirit is constantly saying, focus on love, focus on understanding, focus on compassion, focus on how you can all raise your vibration. And the other thing that they're saying is, as you raise your vibration, you therefore raise the vibration of others around you, like a tuning fork,
Mhm. Mhm.
because it's magnetic resonance. As you do to one, you do to another, you do to yourself. We're all one.
Mm-hmm.
You raise yourself, you raise somebody else. You smiled at somebody else, they smile back at you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do something simple.
Mm-hmm.
Go, to a coffee shop, buy a coffee for the person behind you. Pick up the paper on your neighbor's doorstep. Um, give your spare change to a person who's homeless on the street. There are a lot of them now. Give your spare food instead of throwing it out in the garbage. Give it to somebody, who needs food. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing it just explode everywhere, and it's all over the streets. It's not just in like San Francisco or New York City. It's like it's here in Montclair. It's
Mm-hmm.
everywhere you look now. It's like, oh my God, it's
Mm-hmm.
astounding. So it's up to us to save the world that we live in,
Mm-hmm. I
and
love
that's
that.
what's so
Yeah.
important.
Mm-hmm. Just taking that personal responsibility that we're all in this and we all have that responsibility to elevate ourselves.
100%. We're all
Yeah.
vested.
Amazing. And, I really hope that this conversation for anyone who's listening, this is the first step towards more people going in an elevated direction. And it's like, even if you take one thing, if it's the gratitude journaling or doing a kind gesture to somebody or just sending love out from your heart, like hopefully this is a catalyst for more of that so that we can rise as a collective. So I'm just so grateful for this conversation with you and everything
Well,
you
thank
shared.
you. I
Yeah.
I love being it and love being here and helping relay spirit's messages.
It's amazing. And for someone who wanted to work with you, connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've got a couple websites. Main website is www.montclairmedium.com. I've got all kinds of things there. I've also got another website that's basically a school. It's soulbschool.com. Or, if you just want to, send me an email, you can, go chris@montclairmedium.com. Or you can look up Montclair Medium on Facebook. I'm there too. So, number of places. Also on YouTube. So
Amazing. I'm going to put everything in the show notes too. So if you're listening to this, definitely check that out and connect with Chris. And I just want to thank you again for everything you shared today. It's been a tremendous conversation. I'm just very grateful.
well, my pleasure. Love doing it.
Yes. And again, for everyone listening, please share this episode. Don't keep it to yourself. This could be, again, that catalyst that people can start to elevate and send more love around. So thank you again for tuning in today. Hey there. Thanks for listening to this episode. I hope it serves you well to start rewiring your brain to create the life you desire. If you found value in this, please share it with a friend and tag me on Facebook or Instagram at Dr. Kelly Kessler.